Okay, I'll be discussing the sexual abuse case at Penn State University. In this case, former assistant football coach Jerry Sandusky was convicted of 45 counts of sexual abuse of 10 boys. Sandusky sexually assaulted these young boys repeatedly, which totaled over 1,000 times. This case shook college athletics to its core over the severity of Sandusky's sexual abuse crimes and how the university did nothing. Sandusky used his charity, the Second Mile, to sexually exploit these young children and bring them on campus. The parties involved in this case are highly regarded head football coach Joe Paterno, assistant football coach himself, Jerry Sandusky, University President Graham Spanier, Vice President Gary Schultz, and Athletic Director Tim Curley, and a graduate assistant for the football team, Mike McQuarrie. Jerry Sandusky himself, in this case, committed heinous crimes by using his status and profession to sexually assault these young men. Not only did he commit these dreadful acts in his home, but also at Penn State facilities, in his car, hotel rooms, and a few other locations. In one instance, in 2001, graduate assistant Mike McQuarrie witnessed Sandusky standing naked directly behind a young boy whose hands were up on the men's shower. McQuarrie reported this incident to Coach Paterno, who then involved Athletic Director Tim Curley and Vice President Gary Schultz. After the meetings McQuarrie witnessed, they just told Sandusky that he was not permitted to use Penn State facilities anymore. During the testimony of this incident, Schultz denied that McQuarrie stated anything of sexual nature and merely just stated that what McQuarrie saw was Sandusky horsing around with the kids. The victims commonly reported that Sandusky would place his hands on their thighs and inside their underpants. Officials ignored and covered up all the incidents, as this would negatively affect their names as well as Penn State University.
In an interview videotaped by the New York Times, Jerry Sandusky not only repeats his denials of wrongdoing, he tells the paper youngsters in his Second Mile program, quote, might say I was a father figure who stands accused of 40 counts of raping and molesting young boys. A few weeks ago, NBC's Bob Costas asked Sandusky whether he's sexually attracted to young boys.
Am I sexually attracted to underage boys? Sexually attracted? No, I enjoy young people.
The former coach tells the New York Times at first he wondered what to make of the question. Then, in an intriguing exchange, an apparently uncomfortable Sandusky tries to explain his answer. Off camera, you'll hear the voice of Sandusky's lawyer prompting his client.
If I say, no, I'm not attracted to boys, that's not the truth, because I'm attracted to young people, boys, girls.
Yeah, but not sexually. You're attracted because you enjoy spending time.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. I enjoy spending time with young people. I enjoy spending time with people. I mean, my two favorite groups are the elderly and the young.
An attorney who represents victim number 6, named in the grand jury report, the boy whose mother came forward in 1998 saying Sandusky had showered with her son and hugged him naked from behind, says the accused coach's latest explanations are hard to watch.
His answer was really no different, frankly, than the answer that he gave before. And the sad part, from his perspective, if we want to look at it from that perspective, that his lawyer had to intervene and give him some advice as to how to answer that question. He won't have that luxury in a courtroom.
Sandusky admits that after he was banned from taking young people onto Penn State's main campus following a 2002 allegation that he raped a boy in a locker room, he still had access. Sandusky told the paper then athletic director Tim Curley never took away his keys. Quote, I still have my keys, Sandusky said, and I still went in there and worked out.
Any argument that these men now are making any of this up is really weak. And if that is all that he has in terms of his defense, he is going to have really rough going in the courts.
Sandusky again denies that then head coach Joe Paterno ever mentioned anything to him about the 2002 shower allegation. Sandusky faces a preliminary hearing in a couple of weeks. Among the expected witnesses, at least one of his accusers. Susan Candiotti, CNN, New York.
In this case, there were laws that were broken. Child abuse is a horrifying crime. Sandusky knowingly did what he did, knowing the consequences, and he repeated his actions. To make matters worse, the faculty and administrators of the university did nothing to protect the innocent. Besides Sandusky, Coach Paterno, Vice President Schultz, Athletic Director Curley, and even the Vice President face severe consequences for knowingly and failing to report the child abuse. Most importantly, the children who were sexually abused were dramatically affected mentally and will have to deal with the psychological effects of being molested as a child. Sandusky, Paterno, and Curley and Schultz all violated moral and ethical codes and guidelines. These individuals made decisions and took actions that placed the temporary interests of the university and football team ahead of the well-being and safety of the children. There are many alternatives and solutions involving sexual abuse in this case. Coaches and administration seem to have ignored or taken lightly the matter of abuse in this case. One of the alternatives is as soon as someone suspects any form of abuse occurring, they should report it to local authorities such as the police. By not doing so and instead telling superiors in this matter, the situation was handled lightly and covered up. Due to the nature of abuse going on, the administrators, coaches, presidents, etc. of the school did not want to shed a dark shadow over the university. Also, a grown man should not be allowed to shower with any young man, let alone stay at another man's house. Children are young and naive. They sometimes are too afraid to say no to someone or afraid of telling their parents. There are so many cases in this country where children are sexually abused and don't tell anyone due to intimidation and fear of the pedophile. Most abusees feel ashamed, embarrassed, or feel that no one will believe them. I'll be discussing theories and ethical philosophies. By using the utilitarianism theory in this case, once McCreary witnessed the abuse of Sandusky and the child in the shower, it should have been reported in a legal form. Instead, had the coach, athletic director, and presidents of Penn State seek justice for the abused boys and done something about the situation, it would have maximized the happiness to not only the victims and their families, but for the entire country and world for that matter. Sexual abuse is frowned upon in our world and not taken lightly. These individuals involved did not want this incident to become known, as it would not only tarnish their names, but also Penn State University. In doing so, by not reprimanding and alerting authorities of the abuse, they did not seek the happiness of the majority. Discussing the deontology theory, which focuses on doing the right thing by following rules and laws. Pretty much all the key individuals in this case did the opposite of that, excluding the children who were the victims in this case. In this theory, you do not need to know the consequences in order for you to decide that it is not right to sexually abuse children. It is wrong. Sandusky knew it was wrong to sexually harass children, but still did it anyway without any regard to rules or laws. Spanner, Schultz, Curley, and Paterno all knew what was going on and should have done what's right to stop Sandusky from continuing to do his callous behavior towards the children. Additionally, the acts being done to the children are unnatural in nature, which is the opposite of deontology. The only individual that did the right thing in this instance was Graduate Assistant McCreary, who informed his superiors of the actions of what he saw Sandusky do. We're discussing the virtue theory, which focuses on honesty, courage, temperance, and justice. In this theory, Sandusky violated honesty and temperance aspects as he went back on his words when he was told by Penn State officials to leave the children alone. He also exemplified the opposite of courage as he continued hiding and committing the sexual acts in a blanket of secrecy. The university officials knew of the acts done by Sandusky, violated the honesty aspect as they covered up the situation, then lied in court of not knowing what Sandusky was doing to the boys. If Coach Paterno, Athletic Director Curley, Vice President Schultz had any virtue of courage in them, they would have acted swiftly to seek justice on the matter to help prosecute Sandusky right away, even if it meant problems for Penn State University. On the other hand, McCreary showed courage in this by reporting the abuses to his senior officials, of which he was later reprimanded for and unjustly fired for bringing attention to this matter. As illustrated above, there were instances for them to exemplify the ethical theories but failed to do so. The major consequences of the decisions made by Penn State are noteworthy. Sandusky was found guilty and sentenced to 442 years in prison, basically life. President Spanner was found guilty of one count of child endangerment and sentenced to 2 months in jail and 4 months of house arrest, which is laughable. Coach Paterno did not face any legal charges because of his status in not only the university but in college athletics, which is a complete disgrace. Just because of who he is, he did not face any criminal charges. Vice President Schultz only served 2 months behind bars, while Athletic Director Curley served 3 months. The The sentences in this case are extremely poor and humiliating. Justice was not served for the children involved. Penn State University had to pay over $100 million in civil lawsuits to the victims, on top of the $60 million fine to the NCAA. The football program was put on probation for 5 years and also a postseason ban of 4 years. As a result of the case, 105 bills have been introduced regarding the reporting of suspected child abuse and neglect. In the decision-making process, the first step of recognizing the issue should have been applied, and a decision on reporting him to law enforcement should have been made right away. The children's welfare and safety should have been a top priority.